If you want to start a business today, the standard advice usually sounds the same. You need millions of dollars in seed funding, perfect market conditions, and a background in high technology. But in 2007, a homemaker from Kerala, India named Shije Varghese countered that assumption. She lacked agricultural land, had no business experience, and operated without outside investors. Her starting point was a residential balcony. With a total investment of just 250 rupees, roughly $3, she began the first cycle of her business. Look at this chart comparing her $3 starting point to her final footprint. That tiny initial spend grew into an enterprise generating tens of thousands of dollars in annual revenue, while providing training for over 15,000 people. Reaching this level of scale without outside debt requires a specific blueprint for growth. Shije utilized 3 distinct phases of expansion to turn her balcony hobby into a professional enterprise. The process began on the everyday streets of Kerala. Shije's children had grown up, leaving her with free time, but she lacked the large tracts of fertile land typically required for traditional farming. Mushrooms solved this spatial bottleneck. They don't require massive fields. They can be grown vertically in highly confined indoor spaces. Using that initial $3 budget, Shije and her husband purchased mushroom spawn and basic materials to build exactly 6 experimental beds on their balcony. When the first harvest succeeded, Shije didn't immediately focus on sales. She distributed the entire crop to friends and relatives to validate the quality of the product. This was a textbook micro-test. She confirmed the product market viability through direct feedback, proving the concept worked before risking any further capital. Encouraged by the feedback, she expanded to 15 beds. But as production increased, she hit a wall. The local market had zero demand for her product. Consumers in her area were loyal to familiar, traditional foods. With local markets dominated by staples like these, mushrooms were an unfamiliar commodity that few people knew how to prepare. This diagram illustrates her strategy for breaking that bottleneck. She pivoted from a passive grower to an active educator, teaching the health benefits of her crop. Launching the Coon Fresh brand built trust, converting skeptical shoppers into a loyal customer base. Her growth demonstrates that a lack of an existing market isn't a terminal failure, provided a founder is willing to construct that demand through community education. Eventually, selling raw produce hits a profit ceiling. Fresh mushrooms have a short shelf life, and the margins on raw agriculture remain thin. She high-passed this by processing her harvest into value-added goods like mushroom snacks. This shift allowed her to increase the profit margin per unit while solving the problem of spoilage. Look at this ecosystem map of the final operation. She expanded into business-to-business sales by supplying raw growing materials to other farmers. The final, most lucrative tier was monetizing her operational knowledge, charging for training programs to create a high-margin service business. She scaled the operation by vertically integrating the entire value chain, monetizing every component from the raw materials to the professional training of her competitors. Today, Coon Fresh is a high-density industrial operation. These racks support thousands of growing bags, contributing to an annual turnover of roughly 50 lakh rupees. This professional enterprise is the direct result of those first 6 plastic bags sitting on a residential balcony. Shije's story suggests that the primary barrier to entry is rarely a lack of venture capital. The real obstacle is the tendency to wait for perfect conditions, rather than solving for land, market demand, and shelf life through small, incremental actions. A $3 investment succeeded because it was followed by a decade of constant adaptation. The question is, which low-cost idea are you willing to start testing today?